Every job has its challenges. Mine was surviving the nights. Working as a night security guard in an office building seemed like an easy job. I just had to watch the cameras, do rounds, and make sure no one got in. But then, I realized that something was already there. And it all started with the elevator. Or rather, with what was waiting for me on the 7th floor. In my first week, I already knew something was wrong. Every night at 3:07 a.m., the elevator would go up to the 7th floor. The doors would open, and no one would come out. I thought it was a malfunction, but when I checked the records, the elevator had never been called. It was as if it moved on its own, or worse, as if someone was calling it from there. On the 3rd night, it happened again, but this time I saw something different. As soon as the elevator doors opened, I saw a shadow on the camera screen. It was a blurred silhouette, but clearly there, standing still, not moving. But the moment I blinked, it was gone. My heart pounded. I needed to know what was happening. So that night, I did something I shouldn't have. I went to the elevator. I stepped into the elevator and looked at the panel. I took a deep breath and reached to press the 7th floor button. But before I could touch it, it lit up on its own. The elevator started moving. A chill ran down my spine. I tried pressing another floor. Nothing worked. I was being taken, against my will. When the elevator passed the 4th floor, the lights flickered. Once, twice, 3 times, and then they went out completely. I was in total darkness, but I knew that I wasn't alone, because I could hear it. A breathing sound, low, cold, right behind me. The elevator stopped. The doors were still closed, so I looked at the polished metal door, and I saw a reflection. But it wasn't mine. There was someone behind me, tall, faceless, and it seemed to be getting closer. I was frozen with fear. The thing was close, too close, and then it whispered, "You finally came." The voice was ice cold, rough, and it sounded like it came from everywhere at once. The lights flickered one last time, and I saw it. The face, or rather, the absence of one. The doors opened. But the 7th floor wasn't how I remembered it. The walls were decayed, the lights broken, and the hallway seemed endless. Something was wrong. It was like this place no longer belonged to reality. And then I heard it. Footsteps coming toward me. I ran without looking back. But I could feel it. The thing was behind me. The hallway never ended. It was like I was trapped, stuck in a wrong reality, until I saw a red door. I opened it, and I was back in the elevator, the doors shut. I pressed the ground floor frantically, and when I got out of the elevator, I ran out of the building. I never went back, but before leaving, I looked at the cameras one last time, and there it was, the elevator, going up on its own, 3:07 a.m. The doors opened, and inside, someone was looking at the camera, waiting for another curious soul, someone like you. The doors shut. I pressed the ground floor frantically, and when I got out of the elevator, I ran out of the building. I never went back. But before leaving, I looked at the cameras one last time, and there it was, the elevator, going up on its own, 3:07 a.m. The doors opened, and inside, someone was looking at the camera, waiting for another curious soul, someone like you. If there's one thing I've learned in life, it's that some places should never be reopened. I worked as a night receptionist at an old hotel in my city. It had been closed for years, but recently it underwent renovations and reopened. The building was beautiful on the outside, but inside, something was wrong, especially on the 3rd floor, especially in room 303. On my first day of work, The manager was very clear. Never rent out room 303. He didn't explain why. He just said it was permanently closed. But that very night, the reception phone rang. I answered. On the other end, deep silence, until a whispering voice spoke. Room 303 is occupied. I froze. The phone showed that the call was coming from inside the hotel. I grabbed my flashlight and went up. The third-floor hallway was strangely cold. Even with all the doors closed, a light breeze moved through the corridor. And when I stopped in front of room 303, the doorknob turned on its own. I held my breath. The door was open, and on the other side, there was nothing. Just a dark room and a horrible stench of something rotten. But then, the phone inside the room rang. Each ring made my heart race faster. I didn't want to answer, but something forced me to pick up the receiver. I placed it against my ear and nothing. Silence, until a heavy breath echoed on the other end, and then a voice whispered something that made me freeze. Turn around. My muscles locked, but something inside me forced me to look back, and in the reflection of the room's mirror, someone was there. It wasn't just any guest. He was pale, his clothes stained with blood, and his eyes were completely black. The rotten smell was coming from him. I was paralyzed, but before I could run, he smiled, and in the next second, the door slammed shut behind me. I tried to open the door, but the doorknob was gone. The room looked different. The wallpaper was peeling, covered in deep scratch marks, and the window was sealed shut with rotting planks. I wasn't in the same place anymore. It was as if room 303 was trapping me. Then, the phone rang again. This time, a different voice spoke. It wasn't a whisper. It was a desperate scream. He has no face. Don't look at him. The phone slipped from my hand. Behind me, the shadow was getting closer. Slowly, each step making the floor creak. I couldn't breathe. It stopped right in front of me. I didn't want to look, but my eyes were drawn to it. The skin was wrinkled, distorted, and where its face should have been, there was a deep black void. Then it raised its hand and touched my chest, and in that instant, the world disappeared. Suddenly, I was back at the reception, as if nothing had happened. The clock showed the start of my shift. Had it all been a dream? But then, the phone rang again. I answered, and the same voice from before whispered, "Room 303 is occupied." I looked at the cameras on the third floor. Room 303's door was wide open, and from inside, someone was looking at the camera, waiting for the next curious receptionist, for the next you.